It is August 26th, 1981. The location is the demilitarized zone, the scarred strip of land separating North and South Korea. A North Korean general leans over the radar scope. His eyes are locked on a ghost. For months, he has watched this specific ghost haunt his airspace. It appears on the scan, streaks across the sky faster than any MiG-21 aircraft can scramble, and vanishes before his artillery can calculate a firing solution. But today is different. Today they are not reacting. Today they are waiting. They know the route, they know the timing, and most importantly, they have moved their deadliest asset into a secret position right beneath the flight path. On the radar screen, the blip accelerates. It is moving at speeds that defy the laws of conventional aerodynamics. The general nods to the battery commander. The order is given. 300 miles per hour. That is the speed of the trap snapping shut. High above the clouds, on the edge of space, Major Maury Rosenberg looks at his instrument panel. He is strapped into the cockpit of the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, the fastest air-breathing manned aircraft ever built. He is flying at 80,000 feet. The sky above him is not blue. It is a deep, bruised black. The curve of the earth is visible through the quartz glass of his windshield. Suddenly, the silence of the stratosphere is shattered by a violently red warning light on his dashboard. The digital automatic flight control system screams a warning. Detailed analysis confirms the worst-case scenario. A radar lock. Not a search radar, but a tracking radar. A fan-song radar guidance system has latched onto his metal skin. Down in the mud of the peninsula, a massive cloud of dust kicks up. An SA-2 guideline missile roars out of its canister. It rides a column of fire, accelerating to Mach 3.5 in seconds. It is a telephone pole packed with high explosives, designed specifically to kill American spy planes. The North Korean general watches the two blips on his screen merge. The missile and the plane are on a collision course. He smiles. He believes he is about to become the man who brought down the Blackbird, but he does not understand what is happening inside that cockpit. He does not understand that Maury Rosenberg is not just a pilot. He is a master of energy management. And he does not understand that the plane he is shooting at is not just a machine. It is a monster that feeds on speed. Before we see who wins this race between a missile and the fastest plane alive, make sure you are subscribed to Cold War Impact. We decode the classified history you were never taught before. Click the button now. Let's get back to the cockpit. To understand why this moment is so confusing for the North Korean command, we have to look at the board. We have to understand the arrogance of the trap. It is 1981. The Cold War has entered a dangerous new freeze. Ronald Reagan is in the White House, and the rhetoric between East and West is sharpening. In the Korean Peninsula, the tension is a physical weight. The North acts as a proxy for Soviet aggression, testing the boundaries of American resolve. For the North Korean military leadership, the SR-71 is not just an aircraft, it is an insult. It flies over their territory with impunity. It photographs their troop movements, their nuclear facilities, their breakfast tables, and it does so without weapons. It doesn't need guns. Its weapon is invulnerability. The North Korean generals have studied the patterns. They know the Americans fly a specific route known as the Jerome track. It is a predictable flight path that skirts the edge of international waters, peering deep into the north. They have done the math. They possess the SA-2 missile system. This is Soviet technology. It is the same system that shot down Francis Gary Powers in his U-2 spy plane over Russia in 1960. It is a proven killer. The generals believe the math is simple. The SA-2 flies at Mach 3.5. The American plane flies at Mach 3. Therefore, the missile is faster. If they fire from a head-on angle, the closure rate will be nearly Mach 7. No pilot can react to that. They move a mobile missile battery into the Kaesong Heights. They camouflage it. They wait for weeks. They maintain absolute radio silence. They are hunting a tiger, but they are making a critical error in their calculation. They are assuming the SR-71 behaves like a normal aircraft. They assume that to evade, a pilot must turn. In aerial combat, turning bleeds energy. Turning slows you down. If Maury Rosenberg turns, the missile will cut the corner and destroy him. But the SR-71 was designed by Kelly Johnson and the Skunk Works division to break the rules of physics. In the cockpit, Maury Rosenberg and his reconnaissance systems officer Ed McKim are not panicked. They are focused. They are wearing full pressure suits, looking like astronauts, because if the cabin pressure fails at this altitude, their blood will boil instantly. The heat on the outside of the windshield is over 600 degrees Fahrenheit. The friction of the air is literally cooking the airframe. The plane is expanding, stretching several inches in length as the titanium heats up. Maury checks his fuel flow. He is burning through thousands of pounds of JP7 fuel every minute. The engines, massive J58 turbo ramjets, are in their element. Then, the tone in his headset changes. It is the tone of imminent death. The North Korean radar operator has waited for the perfect moment. The aircraft is turning slightly to align with the DMZ. Its profile is exposed. The launch indicator illuminates in the bunker. The general watches the telemetry. The missile is tracking perfectly. It is climbing through 40,000 feet, 50,000 feet. It is hungry. Let's freeze the frame for a second. We need to talk about what Mach 3 really means. At Mach 3, you are traveling at roughly 2,300 miles per hour. That is faster than a rifle bullet. You are covering 33 miles every single minute. The North Korean missile, the SA-2, uses a blast fragmentation warhead. It does not need to hit the plane directly. It only needs to get close within a few hundred feet and detonate. The cloud of shrapnel will shred the delicate engines of the Blackbird, and at that speed, any structural damage causes the plane to disintegrate instantly. The North Korean general knows this. He expects the missile to explode in front of the plane, creating a wall of steel that the SR-71 will fly into. Back in the cockpit, Ed McKim, the RSO in the back seat, calls out the threat. Missile launch, 6 o'clock, or perhaps 12 o'clock. The reports vary on the exact angle, but the threat is singular. Maury Rosenberg does not bank the plane. He does not dive. He does exactly what the North Koreans think is impossible. He pushes the throttle forward. The throttle of the SR-71 has a final detent. It is the maximum afterburner setting. When you push past the standard limits, you are asking the engines to consume fuel at a rate that drains the tanks in minutes. You are asking the inlet spikes' massive cones at the front of the engines to retract and manage a shockwave that could tear the engine apart if it unstarts. Maury creates a unstart risk to save his life. He demands more. The sensors on the SA-2 missile are confused. The missile's guidance computer predicts where the plane will be in 5 seconds based on its current speed, but the plane is not maintaining speed. It is accelerating. Mach 3.1, Mach 3.2. The airframe groans. The temperature on the nose cone spikes to nearly 1,000 degrees. The North Korean radar operator sees the data. The target is pulling away. But how? The physics say the missile is faster, but the missile is climbing against gravity. It is fighting thick air to get to thin air. Its rocket motor burns for only a limited time. Once the fuel is gone, the missile becomes a coasting bullet. It starts to lose speed. The SR-71, however, gets more efficient the faster it goes. The ramjet effect kicks in. The faster air is forced into the engine, the more thrust it generates. It is a runaway feedback loop of power. Rosenberg is surfing a shockwave. Mach 3.3. The distance between the hunter and the prey begins to stabilize. The missile is straining. Its guidance fins are flapping wildly in the thin air, trying to adjust to the new intercept point. The North Korean general leans closer to the screen. The two blips are merging. This is it. The SA-2 reaches its terminal phase. Its proximity fuse detects the massive metal return of the SR-71. It detonates. A massive sphere of high explosive energy erupts in the stratosphere. Shrapnel, traveling at supersonic speeds, fans out in a deadly cone. In the cockpit, Rosenberg and McKim feel a thump. It is a vibration that travels through the titanium spine of the aircraft. It is the shockwave of the explosion catching up to them. But here is the twist. The missile detonated where the computer thought the plane would be, but Rosenberg had pushed the Blackbird to a speed that the Soviet engineers who designed the missile had never accounted for. The plane is not there. The SR-71 is a mile down the road. The shrapnel flies harmlessly into empty space. The shockwave ripples through the contrail of the Blackbird, but the aircraft itself is racing away, untouched. On the ground, the radar screen blooms with the static of the explosion. The North Korean command room erupts in cheers. They see the bloom. They assume the target is destroyed. The general claps his hands. They have done it. They have blinded the Americans. They wait for the debris. They wait for the slow, tumbling return of falling wreckage on the radar. But the screen clears. The static fades. And there, emerging from the chaos, is the blip. It is still there. It is still moving. And it is moving faster than before. The cheer dies in the general's throat. The silence in the bunker is heavier than the concrete walls. They watch in absolute disbelief as the target climbs higher, turns casually to the south, and exits their airspace. It is a ghost. It is invincible. The general looks at his technicians. He demands an explanation. Did the fuse fail? Did we miss? The technicians are baffled. The math said they should have hit. The guidance was perfect. The radar lock was solid. The missile performed exactly as designed. They cannot accept the reality. The American machine simply outran the explosion. Maury Rosenberg and Ed McKim land back at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa. As they taxi into the hangar, the heat radiating from the aircraft is so intense that the ground crew cannot touch it for an hour. The ticking sound of cooling titanium fills the hangar. They climb out, their flight suits soaked in sweat. They have just survived the impossible. But the story doesn't end there. This is where the Cold War gets truly cold. The United States government does not hold a press conference. They do not brag about the evasion. They do not release the footage. Why? Because mystery is a weapon. By staying silent, they force the North Koreans to question their own technology. The North Korean generals are left wondering if the Americans have a secret jamming device, or a laser system, or a force field. They do not realize it was simply raw speed and the nerves of a pilot named Maury. This uncertainty paralyzes the enemy. If your best missile can't catch the target, what can? The North Koreans spent millions upgrading their radar networks after 1981. They chased ghosts for decades. They fired explosions into the empty sky, hoping to catch the Blackbird. They never did. Over 4,000 missiles were fired at the SR-71 program over its lifetime. Not a single one ever brought a Blackbird down. Maury Rosenberg's flight on that August day remains one of the closest calls in the history of the program. He didn't just fly a plane, he proved a point. He proved that in the game of high-stakes technological poker, the United States held the royal flush. The baffled generals in that bunker eventually filed their reports. We can only imagine what they wrote. Target engaged, target destroyed, and then, quietly in the footnotes, target continued flight. It is a paradox that defines American air superiority in the Cold War. We built things that didn't just beat the enemy, they broke the enemy's understanding of reality. The SR-71 sits in museums now. It looks fast even when it is standing still. But on that day in 1981, it wasn't a museum piece. It was the only thing keeping Maury Rosenberg alive. The SA-2 missile is a terrifying weapon, but against the Blackbird, it was just a firework. If you want to see the exact tactical breakdown of how the SR-71 engines work to create that ramjet effect, or the story of the one time a Blackbird actually disintegrated in mid-air, comment below now. The Cold War has more secrets, and we are going to find them all.